The Handmaid's Tale. Now, there is a section in it that begins in season 2 and rolls into season 3 where there is pedophilia in this world that has been set up, right? Alright. So, The Handmaid's Tale. It takes place after a sterilization process, right? It's a sterilization of the society where you've heard of the moral majority. The moral majority is actually a small group of people that make up the moral majority, right? So a moral majority, so when you hear someone say moral majority, they're really talking about a small group of people who somehow move in such a way that they build power to the fact that even though they're a minority within the larger society, they make themselves seem like they're the majority because their decision making moves the society, right? And changes society. So moral majority, right? So look, a moral majority decides that women who have multiple partners, women who are not married, women who may have been adulterous, may have broke up marriages but then married that person, women who are lesbian, women who just don't quite fit into society are deemed to be malfeasance, and they have to be reprogrammed to become these handmaidens, right? And so what do the handmaidens do, right? They're deprogrammed and they're reprogrammed in the way of this particular society that the people have put together, right? And but what you find is the society, as usual, there is hypocrisy that runs throughout the society, right? And you find out that through this hypocrisy that the women who are the handmaids then become disgruntled employees. And what is the handmaiden's main purpose? What is the handmaiden's main purpose? It's been on for 4 seasons now, going into the 5th. So if you're not, familiar, we're going to give you some spoilers, right? Just some spoilers, right? So what is the main purpose of these handmaids? The main purpose of the handmaidens, I don't know how every wife seemed to have been sterile, but the wives of the men that are in power do not have the children. These handmaidens are the ones who bear the children, and then they are moved to house to be breeders at house to house, right? If they prove themselves to be able to bear children for different people, right? For the different higher up males, right? So this is a male driven society which is based on the Bible. Everything is based on biblical teachings, right?
Is it like a spin on the transatlantic slave trade?
Yes, and that's what we were going to get to. The woman who wrote it, which her name is Margaret Atwood, Margaret Atwood wrote this book called The Handmaid's Tale. And The Handmaid's Tale is really the slave trade or the slave existence in America, but it's told through these handmaidens who are Caucasian. It's mixed groups, but there's a few blacks, maybe a few Latinos, but it's mostly Caucasians, right? So the life of a slave in North America is told in this story, right?
Right.
And the similarities. So the woman was ingenious, and I think that she said, "Well, I can't get away with writing a book about the slave trade with American blacks, right? So I'm going to tell this story with majority Caucasian women, and of course, I think probably she wrote it probably all Caucasian, but then of course they had to drop people in, right? So you see different hierarchies of women, right? The handmaids are at the bottom level, right? Then you have the women who are like the maids in the household.
Right.
Then you have the women who are over the household. Then you have the males, and then you have the males who have their security. So it's really interesting, but the way that the story is played out like the existence of slaves during antebellum slavery, especially the impregnation and it's an interesting spin on it, but that's what she did with this book. Let's go over the cast.
Okay, starring Elizabeth Moss. She plays Offord. We reviewed Elizabeth Moss in The Invisible Man.
That's
a few months ago. Also starring Yvonne Strahovski. She plays Serena Joy. Ann Dodd plays Aunt Lydia. Joseph Fiennes, he plays the commander. Alexis Blido, she plays Offglen.
Okay, so hold on one second. Aunt Lydia.
Yeah, from The Leftovers.
From the goodness. HBO. The Leftovers. All she did was smoke cigarettes, and she didn't speak. And when she finally did speak,
an asshole.
I mean, it was just crazy. And she finally got her comeuppance. Well, she's in another role like that, except for she's speaking, and she is the one that gets the women into shape and pushes all the way through, assigns them to households to be these handmaidens. Once they get pregnant, she's the one who works through the Lamaze classes because they have to have natural childbirth. There's no epidurals or none of that. And they have to have it naturally. And it is...
Is she the Galen?
Is she the Galen?
Is she the Galen? She places the young girls in the different houses.
She places the young girls in the different houses. Yeah. But then who's the Epstein? It's just the Epstein. The Epstein is the system running.
It's the system running.
There we go.
Yeah.
See how we tie this all together, people? Right, so continue on with the cast.
Madeline Brewer, she plays Janine Lindo. Her storyline is heartbreaking as well.
Yes.
Samira Wiley, she plays Mora. O.T. Bagbin, he plays Luke. He plays the husband, Offering. Amanda Brugel, Bradley Whitfield, Nina Kirkry, huge cast. Marissa Torme, Sydney Sweeney, Cherry Jones, Baha Watson, Ever Carradine, Ashley Luthrop.
I mean the handmaids, right?
Oh, I can't leave out the little girl because Jordana Blake.
That's right.
Yeah,
she plays that part.
Good little actress. I mean, she's crying like that's her biological mother.
Yes, she is. Yeah. When you see this, if this doesn't bring tears to your eyes, there is something wrong. There are certain scenes in there that you can just feel. And I don't think that it would have worked if it was produced. But what she is doing, she is telling antebellum slavery, but she put it within this framework of the Handmaid's Tale, right?
It's heartbreaking when you see the handmaids separated from their children.
That's right.
Like heartbreaking, like literally, like I was watching it and crying.
Right.
You know?
And it's like the people who are in power, it's like they can be nice in 1 minute, but you can tell that it's a fake nice because the next minute they turn on a dime and say you're beneath me.
You can't help but think about your ancestors watching this film.
This is true.
You know, so it's tear jerking because, like I said, the scene with the star and her little girl, like the separation.
Yes.
I mean, how many times did slaves, multiple times, separated from their children, their husband?
That's right.
Right? Just, you know, this is heartbreaking.
It's a heartbreaking piece.
It's heartbreaking.
But it is entertaining, and the pacing on it is incredible.
Great
the
pacing.
Cinematography, 10.
Yeah.
The conversion from the book into the script is a 10. Right? The wardrobe, bringing the characters from the book and the script onto the screen off the page, that's a 10. The acting, I mean, the child actors are extremely believable. The acting between the adults and the children, extremely believable. The acting between the adults with the adults and the hierarchy of what's going on, that's a 10, right? The lighting, the use of lighting to set up the coldness of the house, of the main house that it's shot in.
Right.
Beautifully shot in a kind of grayish blue, pale blue, which gives it a look of being cold, juxtaposed up against her red cloak and white bib. That is a 10.
Matter of fact, you can tell the difference, and there's two scenes, right? And then I told you while we were watching the film, I said the one household, although the conditions are horrible, the baby was being born into a warmer household.
That's true.
Because the colors were vivid and yellow, and it was just warm compared to the second baby.
Right.
The star of Handmaid's Tale, her baby. You just look at the imagery that the world that this baby is being brought into, like you said, just cold. Just
the scene between her and her daughter, because her daughter, she's married originally. She takes a man away from his woman. Right. She takes a American black man away from his American black woman, or does he walk away from her? But that's the struggle piece, and that's why they said she was an adulteress, and so that's why she became a handmaid, right? But so they have a child, and it's a daughter, it's a mixed child, right? But she's a black child, okay. But anyway, look, the scene where they finally get a chance to reunite. And the way that the little girl played the scene, it is incredible acting, right? Where you believe it to the end, and in the end, when she's trying to get away, when time is up, and they have to part, the little girl starts screaming for mom. I mean, if you don't,
it's heartbreaking.
If you don't feel that, I don't know what it is, but it is well worth watching. If you've never seen The Handmaid's Tale, we just told you all of that as far as, you know, the breakdown.
Like you said, the cinematography just tells the story.
Yes, it is.
Before dialogue begins, it's just, you know, like when you describe that house, like it being cold and gray, the blue, the colors that they use, I mean, it's just, and then you see the seasons change. They did a great job. Like I told you earlier, I said, this is one story where you never really know what is going to come out of the main character offer. You never know what's going to come out of her mouth. Mm-hmm. Like she's like constantly thinking because she's trying to survive mm-hmm. in this atmosphere. So she's trying to survive. She's trying to figure out a way to get out of there. But yet while trying to get out of this horrible community that she's being kept in, uh-huh. she can't just up and like bounce. She has to figure out a way to find her daughter, get her daughter, take her daughter with her, and leave. I mean, it's just...
Mm-hmm. And that's what's holding her there.
And she's trying to play her cards right.
But at this point, there's a new baby, and so it's 2 children.
Right. So,
right?
Yeah.
So, what would you give The Handmaid's Tale?
I would definitely give it a 10 because it's well written. Mm-hmm. And like I said, it reminds me of, it makes me think of what our ancestors went through, mm-hmm. right? And just the pain and just, I mean, it's just, you never know where the storyline is going to go. You think it's going to, it's bobbing and weaving, and there is never a dull moment. Like from
twists and turns
from beginning to end, every episode.
Right?
Right. So, I mean, you just
never know. Let's see who we have on the line here. 708. You're on the line. Who's on the line? 708. What is going on? 708. I don't know. I can't. I guess they're not hearing us today.
You know what? Whenever we have very like
call dropped.
Yeah, social media, like they just don't get me started. When there's certain issues, you know, we talking about this pedophilia that's going on, and then all of a sudden, mm-hmm. you know, the phone call.
Well, one of them was definitely Bare Facts trying to call.
Yeah, he was trying to get through, but somehow it's just like it's like blocking the conversations, and we've had many calls come through, yeah. But all of a sudden tonight, when we're hitting this topic and we're talking about reparations and we're talking about the sex trafficking that's going on, mm-hmm. There's glitches in the system.
Yes, it is. Now look, people, there is a storyline, like I said, about the pedophilia, right? It's a 10. It's a 10 for me. Yeah, my wife says a 10. Yeah. There's a scene about pedophilia where these dudes are marry off their security to 15-year-olds, to children. This isn't the Wild Wild West. This is the children, and you see how the person who is actually in love with one of the handmaidens is trying to juxtapose that, and you see the brutality. Everything is a punishment to people who don't follow through, but the men have their way of not following through where they don't get caught, but the women have to follow. The women who are in the hierarchy, who are married to the men, have to follow what the men say. It's all hypocrisy cut into this piece. You will enjoy The Handmaid's Tale.
These people, don't you think they're worse than the Stepford Wives? I mean, they were controlling of the Stepford Wives. I mean, they were trying to make the perfect wife. But this right here, compared to the Stepford Wives,
they got the wives in the room when they doing the do. And you got to see
goodness.
It. You got to see it. You got to see it to believe it. It is well.
You're talking about threesomes.
So it is well written. It is well worth seeing. Viewer discretion is advised, as it does tell a story of consistent, constant abuse, right? And guess what time it is? It's the end of another great episode of the Film Review, right? We'd like to thank all the people who tried to call in. I don't know what was going on with that. They're hemming up the phone line somehow. Don't know what's going on with that, but we'll figure that out. But thank you for calling in for that. We'd like to thank all the people who commented and all the people we see that came in who are watching us this evening. And we would like to say that this is the Film Review.
Yeah.
Movies, music, culture, politics, society podcast. Right. We are the husband and wife team. I'm Crazy D.
I'm Tracy.
I'm the filmmaker, and my wife is the
critic. But before we go, I just need to add one more thing, right? Like, especially with the environment that we're dealing with today, it's very important to, like, back in the day, like when I was a little girl, like when you as well were kids growing up, right? And you as well, our parents would be able to be comfortable with us playing in the front yard or in our backyard alone, or just sitting on the front porch, or at the end of the driveway. But today, people, you have to monitor your kids, protect your children. No more just sending them outside, letting them play by themselves without adult supervisions, because these people are predators.
That's right. So are we headed to...
So it's up to us.
So are we headed to a pedophile state? Just like my wife said.
Well, it's up to us. It's up to us to protect our children.
But it's up to us.
Right.
It's on you.
Right.
What are you going to do?
You have to protect your child.
You have to protect
look out for your neighbor's child as well.
That's right.
You know, we have to look out for each other, because we don't have anybody else but each other. And then these people are kidnapping these babies. They're kidnapping grown women. How many times have we seen it on social media? I've seen many of grown women on social media warning other women, saying they tried to snatch me. This is what happened. And so, you know, you have to look out for your wives as well, your mothers, your sisters.
And you have to check out if the neighbors are watching your kids, you got to check out the neighbor. You got to make sure the neighbors don't have a under the ground or in the basement dungeon.
You don't leave your child alone. I mean, that just goes back to, I mean, we could go on and on, but we're back in Cleveland, the man who kidnapped the 3 young ladies.
Yeah.
He kidnapped his daughter's friend, who had been, over to the house, the friend of the family and everything.
Daughter knew nothing about it.
And the daughter knew nothing about it. She didn't know her dad had kidnapped her friend, got her pregnant, and had her chained to the damn basement for years. And this was so-called a family friend. That's and he was going to the visual, and he was spending time with the girl's mother and family, acting like he was helping look for the girl. Meanwhile, she's in the basement of the home.
So basically, what I'm saying to you, what we're saying to you people is protect your children. And be skeptical of the neighbor.
Be skeptical, of the neighbor. Keep your eyes on your kids.
Yeah, like especially if they look strange and they barbecuing in the back.
Just because they have children don't mean anything.
And the barbecue smells kind of funny, like it might be human flesh. Don't be letting your kid be out there playing. Remember, people, one more time, 460,000 kids are reported missing a year, right? Black kids go missing at a higher rate than white kids. That's by CNN. 1 million children are commercially sex trafficked. Information by the International Labor Organization, right? So protect your children.
Protect your children. That goes back to what you were saying. How about the guy who was having a cookout for the neighborhood and he was barbecuing bodies?
And having them eat it. That was Saywell.
And everybody said, "Oh, he's such a great neighbor, and he was helping with this and that, and everyone loved him."
And they were going over there eating the barbecue and didn't know they were eating human flesh of dead women.
So I mean, you just have
serial killer,
right? But that's all I just.
The Atlanta child murders,
right?
Protect your children at all costs. Are we headed to a pedophile state? Are they putting things on TV to desensitize you to that? The answer is yes, but the decision is ultimately up to you. Protect your children.
Yes.
When you have children, put your children first.
Yes.
Pick them up from school.
Yes.
Make sure you arrange. My mother made sure that she arranged the time, arranged her schedule around so she could come pick me up from school when I was a little one.
Yes. This is not the time to let your children, well, right now we're dealing with quarantine, but once this is over, like seriously, this is not the time to let your children walk back and home from school alone. This is not the time to let them run to the corner store.
No.
I don't care if the corner store is just 2 or 3 houses down.
That's right.
This is not the time.
So are we headed to pedophile? Is the United States headed to a pedophile state? It's all up to the people who have children. It's all up to you.
Yeah.
You love your child.
Protect them.
Protect your child. Your child will thank you.
Yeah.